Yo, what is up guys, MattWic here. We are back, NHL 25 testing the draft. And in this video, I'm going to show you some drafting, or better yet, scouting tips and tricks that I've learned over the years. Common knowledge to me, but I don't know if you guys know all of them, so it might help you in your scouting game. Hopefully get you some better draft picks, some gemmies in those late rounds, and just overall better in-depth information on the prospects that you can get. So I'm going to give out some insider secrets here from the Quebecois repêchage. Still don't know if that's how I'm supposed to pronounce it. We're just going to go with it though. So the very first thing, the biggest tip that I can give you guys is, so in the first 2 years of your franchise, scouting is going to be a little bit difficult for the sole reason that your scouts really aren't going to be the best. Depending on the role you get for your scouts, your best ones might be NHL, AHL scouts. One thing real quick, I don't play with the fog of war turned on, so every AHL, NHL scout I get, I'll go through and look, see if they have any adaptability, I guess you could say, for other regions that are scouting regions. Most guys, if they're NHL, AHL guys, they'll at least have like the USA or a Canadian region that you can assign them to have them scout, so that way you don't have to just fire your best guys. Other than that, like I said, it's going to be tough for a little bit because you're going to have a bunch of C minus scouts. The big thing is, once you get 2 seasons into that second off season after the draft and into the free agency, make sure you go check the free scouts or the free agent scouts that are available, because that is the year where scouting contracts will start to expire and teams won't renew a lot of their guys for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe they just need to make room for their NHL scouts and AHL scouts that we don't have. So we get a little bit of advantage if you do turn the fog of war off. If you do turn it on, you can still use this kind of just in a little bit more of a watered down way. But like I said, so you will get a massive bump to your scouts after the year 2 season into year 3, and I'm going to show you mine. It was a pretty phenomenal year. So if you'll see here, we are just loaded now with A scouts, lots of B scouts. The lowest we have are some C scouts, but we have at least a B or an A scout in pretty much every single region. Right now, USA, we are dominating. One big thing too is your region efficiency. You want to make sure it's at least an A minus. A plus is definitely preferred because that's going to be the efficiency that they do in that region they scout, and that is a huge thing there. So A minus at the least. But if you do get a guy like this guy right here, he is an A minus, but his region efficiency is an A minus, I'm fine with that just because all of his other stats are going to be so boosted. Another thing, how you're going to want to disperse your 20 scouts. So in the USA, I do 3, 1 for each zone. And if one region, like let's say normally in Sims, the West, becomes really light on players, I'll have a guy there for maybe a couple months into the season, and then I'll transition him to the Central or the East, whichever one has more prospects. So it's also really important to get guys that have multi-region functionality for the different USA at least regions, just because that's really important. If you get guys that are like A minus in one region, I mean, if they're A minus overall scouts and they're only good in one region, it's still fine. It's just preferable that if you have like maybe 2 or 3 guys that you're in between, if they have a little bit more of like 3 A's throughout the different categories, that's going to be a pretty big thing that I would focus on. For the Canadian regions, at least 3 scouts in every area. I have 4 in the QMJHL right now just because we are in Quebec. So any players that come out of that league, I want to be able to have first dibs. I want to be able to find the gems that are in that league. Europe, I normally go for 2. Those 2 guys are normally going to be like a C or a B guy, just because I want to make sure the 2 guys that I do have A's in every single region. That way I can mix and match them around. If one region has a ton of guys, I can put them both there and get double scouts on that. Nordic, I like finding a lot of guys there. Normally the SHL and Liga have a ton of prospects as you go on. The third one, Allsvenska, or however you pronounce it, you know what I'm talking about. The third one, that one at a certain point gets no players in it, and I can show you guys what I mean even here. If we go to this Liga scout that I have, and this is in year 3, so they drop off pretty quickly, but you can see they have no players in the entire region, so it's pretty pointless to get a guy for that. So if you see a SHL Liga scout that has A's in those 2 regions, but like a C in the Allsvenskan region, Doesn't matter. Hire him anyway because it's going to be fine. Like I said, Liga, SHL, it's going to have a ton of prospects there, so you definitely want to get those guys in. Russia, I prefer normally to have 2 scouts in Russia, just because you do normally see a lot of prospects generate there. And a lot of times those Russian scouts can also have good Nordic carryover as well. And then maybe a little bit of European ones, so you can supplant those guys if Russia doesn't have a lot of prospects in that year. But that's kind of how I do my scouting setup with my active scouts. Other than that, once you have that set up, what I would recommend is, so we'll go through here. So when you sort, it's always going to put the top guy if you sort by region, so you can see the 3 regions here. What I'll normally do is I'll go in, manually scout specific players, and I'll have like one guy focus on, and it's normally going to be the guy, and I'll show you this too. It's normally going to be the guy because if you do potential and comparison scouting, that takes a longer time than some of the other ones. So what I'll look for is whichever scout has the best scouting efficiency. That means they're going to get through the assignments a little bit faster. That's normally the guy I'm going to put on the potential and comparison assignment. Other guys, I'll put this guy on the skill assessment, and then I'll put this guy on strengths and weaknesses. And then once I feel like I have a good feel on some of those strength and weaknesses, they come pretty quick. I'll switch that guy over maybe also to skill assessment, or I'll have him maybe go a little bit down further on the list. That's pretty much it for the assigning the scouts around. Like I said, just have one guy go for one thing, one guy go for another thing, one guy go for another thing. That way you get a good net across all the prospects of their different abilities. As the season goes on, one thing I would recommend doing is going into your draft. Let's see, the draft, the draft class. And a nice thing that you can do here is when you sort by potential, it's the beginning of the year, so nobody's really sorted or scouted just yet. We have a couple guys here, as you can see, but let's say you have this guy medium elite. He's ranked 316, so he's normally not going to get hit whenever they do, if you do the auto scouting. But if you just want to sim through really quick and not really have to go and assign scouts every couple of weeks, one thing you can do, so if you find a player like this, you go to his information page, and you'll see there at the bottom Y, scout player. You can automatically assign any scout that's in that area and scout any of their report types that you might want. So it's a real quick way to go through. If you have a bunch of guys who are medium elite, they're not being scouted. If they are being scouted, you won't be able to assign the scout to them. But if you go through, you see guys that are medium elite that aren't being scouted, you can go through real quick click to open their player card, hit scout player, add that thing there, and then you just hit confirm. That guy's now added to the list, and he's going to be scouted, so you can go through and find the guy there. One last tip before we end this video is my biggest factor that I normally look for whenever I'm viewing a draft class is I really want to go through and see their skill assessments. A lot of the times that can tell me what's a little bit more as opposed to the potential, just because even if you scout potential in comparison the entire year, it seems like the bar will never fully fill up no matter how many times you do it. However, with skill assessment, that does. And if you get in the later rounds and you see a guy who maybe has A shooting and that's confirmed, you know that guy's going to come out with a higher overall, has a better chance to be maybe one of those top 6 medium elite, low elite guys, maybe even a franchise guy if it does come out to it. One last thing I want to expand on here, guys, is like I said, at the start of the 26-27 season, in the off season, what you'll do for these scouts whenever they do become available. Let's say you already have a full list of 20 scouts. There is no penalty for firing scouts. So pretty much what I'll do is I'll go in, look for who's available. So let's say we have a bunch of A+ guys. I'll go through, take a look, see, okay, AHL guy, but he is good at the OHL, so I want to sign him for my OHL squad. I'll go in, give him an offer. Most of the times I'll go up pretty much to their max, if not pretty close to it, at least 3 clicks up for what they actually want. That way, if another team tries to come in and get them, you're pretty much confirmed to get them. The budget now, it seems like, so far through 3 years, has been fixed. Before, where if you wouldn't spend your full scouting budget, the budget would decrease to whatever the maximum that you spent was that year. It seems like they got that out of this game, so that way your budget's going to stay consistent. So far for me, it's been at 4.057 million. It's same for the coaches as well. My budget's been at around over 10 million. But like I said, so this guy's a good OHL scout. I'll go in, give him an offer, go back out, sort, go down to my OHL guys, say, okay, this guy is a C. I want to get rid of him. I'm going to go ahead and actually, you know what? I might actually get that guy. But no, I'll leave him there for some other team to maybe grab. But I'll go in, fire him, go back over, look for the next guy. see how many contracts I have offered, see how many active scouts that I have, make sure that that number isn't too much, see who I have to maybe go fire if I forgot to do somebody. But yeah, that's the additional tip I wanted to throw in there for you guys in case you had any questions. So guys, that's pretty much going to be all of the tips. Let me know any additional ones maybe in the comments that I don't know about. Any other questions that you guys might have about scouting. Love the draft in NHL, as you can tell by looking at the channel. That's normally one of the things I go through and just pay a ton of attention to. So I hope this video helps some of you guys get some better prospects into your system, and maybe even get some better prospects that you can use for trade fodder as your teams get a little bit better. But guys, that's gonna be the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed. Make sure to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Leave a comment. Like I said, let me know any of your scouting tips that I may not have gone over, and then subscribe to the channel for more NHL 25 content. Boys, that's the end of this one. Peace.